So I think one of the funniest things that happens when you are a part of a global team are all of those things you learn about other cultures and the assumptions that you make that you realize were total bullshit, right? Like you realize you were totally wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, really, do all Belgians love waffles? I mean, things like that. Is that all they eat?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's things like that, right? Oh, there's just all French fries in France. Like,
Oui.
right? Oui, like that, right? Oh gosh. Well, one of the funniest stories was a coworker of mine who made an assumption about Americans, right? And so they were telling me about how they went to a business dinner, real fancy business dinner, and, large team there. And the executive, like the head guy who is American, came into the dinner and, he's the highest of the hierarchy there, right? And he sits down with a very international team, people from everywhere, right? And this person in particular from Europe. And so he sits down and grabs a glass of water from the table, puts it under the table, and starts washing his hands at a professional business meal. Air quotes on washing, because there was no soap. Okay, that was just
Right.
It was a bird bath. He was bird bathing,
Whore bathing.
under a business meal table.
Huh.
And so what's funny though is that this person was sharing that story with me, kind of like, so that's what you all do, right?
It's a thing. It's a cultural tradition, a norm.
It's a cultural norm in America that we don't use soap and we just
Abnorm.
bathe under a professional business dinner table, right? We just bird bath it up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so just the thought of that, like everybody watching this at the table and him doing that bird bath there with this mixed crowd. And they all walked away probably like, Americans wash their hands like this.
Well, but then you think of the really nice restaurants where they bring you like the warm towels to wipe up. So then I'm like, my head goes there and I'm like, okay, well, there's similarities there.
No, he was like pouring the water out on the floor.
Well, that's what I said. Where did the water go? And then did he leave the glass? I would have obviously kicked the glass over on accident, and it would have shattered, and then it would have been like a bloodbath because there would have been blood on the floor per my habits. But like, you just leave it down there, and then what do you ask the wait staff? Like, oh, I need another glass, or do you sip? God forbid, sip from it.
Yes,
don't sip from your neighbor's glass. You never know what they've been touching.
Especially not this guy. He's dipping his fingers in it under the table.
Those habits, like it's this strange,
weird, man.
Like I remember seeing like C-level leaders that would like walk into like a work bathroom with like a book, and you'd be like, oh, like it's just some of those I do think habits that like sometimes the top leaders have that. Again, because no one else is going to talk about it. Well, not to them.
Exactly.
Not to them, at least.
But
so
maybe
strange.
best to be cognizant, right? Like with your global team, like think about like that. Just it makes me laugh thinking about their takeaway that
hilarious.
Americans bird bath it under the table.
It is a good with global teams, and you have to be sensitive to those things. But I do think it's a good thing to say, like, what are things that people think about you or your culture that you like to correct? And again, you have to be super have a lot of trust and have some guardrails to not have some offensive. It could be to offensive stereotype. But some of this stuff, or what are things you think people should know about your culture, or some of the holidays, times off, things like that. Like getting global awareness with a global team can be helpful because especially those people, if you're an American company, those people that are global, sometimes the further you are from headquarters, you can feel like, really far away.
Yeah.
And you probably want to be far away if someone's washing their hands at the table.
Exactly. But I love doing that. I love asking, especially the Brits about their tea and the French about their wines. And I just do that anytime I'm on the travel or I have a global colleague to Ashley's recommendation. Right. I'm like, tell me everything. You know what I mean?
I remember, when we were in Australia, because I lived there.
Exactly.
So, we'll move all the topics aside. I'll just hijack the meeting. But one of my friends was coming from Australia, was going to a global work conference in the U.S. at Niagara Falls. And she came back and, how was it? She's like, we went to a diner. She's like, I got some pancakes. Like, you go to Australia, you get a pancake. It's like a pancake. Like, it's a
A singular
portion. It's, I mean, or close to it. Like she's like, God bless. There were 10 things stacked. I could have eaten all day. The portion sizes, you don't realize it, I think, until you do have some of these things abroad, or conversely, the people come and you realize like the shift in perspective and you're like, well, no wonder I love stretch pants, but
exactly. That's always the number one, is the portion sizes.
It is. It really is.
You know, I went to Niagara Falls and I thought it was small. That was my key takeaway. You said Niagara Falls. And that's what she said. That's what she said. Oh, gosh. Well, to that point, time to kick off this meeting. Thanks for joining us for a little bit of water cooler talk there. Well, let me run through the agenda for today's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this stuff. We are going to kick it off with some cringe corporate speak, and Jamie is going to dive into that one for us today. And then we're going to shift over to our hot topic of the day, which is all about NDAs, right? Those are very popular on the interwebs right now. People thinking they understand them and the whatnot. But we have a subject matter expert here with us in Ashley. So we're going to have a little NDA discussion. And then, of course, as always, we're going to transition into some questions and comments before we have that hard stop, because we have much better things to do than meet all day, right?
I don't. Not really.
I know. That is true. Not
really.
All right.
This is my favorite meeting of the day.
That is true. That is true. That is true. All right. So cringe corporate speak, Jamie. What do you got?
So we have drink the Kool-aid today. And first of all, the origin behind it is pretty messed up. But before I go into that, I want to admit that I've actually used this in front of a large group where I don't quite remember what the reason was for the meeting, but we were in a large grand ballroom, once again, hospitality, and the general manager asked a question. No one wanted to stand up. And of course, me being literally not having an embarrassing bone in my body, I decided to take the mic and stand up and respond to her question. And part of that was basically like, I drank the Kool-Aid. But now reading the origins of it, oh man, I'm cringing so hard. That's okay. That was a really long time ago. But the origins of it actually have to do with the cult, the People's Temple movement, the 900 members that drank Kool-Aid and died.
Well, it wasn't Kool-Aid that we're drinking.
It was laced.
It was laced. Yeah, I mean, because I don't want a lawsuit here. I don't want a law.
But you know what? Actually, interestingly,
I did face. I was like, wait, but it was laced.
You know, it wasn't,
it was like cyanide.
It was exactly. It was laced with cyanide. But you know what? Interestingly, it wasn't actually Kool-Aid as the brand. It was Flavor-Aid. But everyone calls it Kool-Aid. So I'm sure, you know, the Kool-Aid man's probably not happy with that false association.
Yeah, because I was in Ghana. So
Guyana, I think.
Yeah.
Jonestown, Guyana.
Jonestown Massacre, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Jones.
I will never... Yeah. Well, except probably in this meeting, use it in
a full sentence. Like, so what are people, and what would you say differently?
So how I used it in that meeting was talking about how basically I'm fully invested in the company and I quote unquote drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to die for y'all.
But you could have said fully, I'm fully invested. I mean.
Oh yeah, I could have. And I should have. That's why it's very cringy now to look back and be like, I can't believe I fucking said that.
I wonder if there's anyone from that grand ballroom attendance that's listening to the podcast. I remember Jamie saying that.
Yeah, I was like, I have a few friends that I still talk to that were in there. So
I think that one's really common.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always heard that one.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, the origin story, I had no idea. But a lot of the corporate speak comes from really dark places.
Yeah.
Right? It just does,
we have learned.
Yeah, we have since
over
learned.
The course of the last few episodes.
Like, how jacked up are we?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Like it is kind of, it is kind of twisted because you're like, how does this end? But,
yeah, like how do we insert it in our daily corporate lives? Like how was...
Dark phrases for dark places.
Let's joke about 900 people drinking laced Kool-Aid. Like what?
Yeah. Isn't that weird? We've got a lot of those though, culturally. You know what I mean? Like we would have to get into it, but like there is a lot.
Yeah, like even like the middle finger or like waving or a high five.
Okay, well we didn't even get into gestures. Okay, like he took that a different place. I don't know the origin of those.
Yeah, we'll have to. This is for a future meeting. And Jamie, you have a hard stop, so let's let's be mindful.
Ooh, so moving on to the hot topic on that death Death Note there. Legal stuff.
Piping hot topic. Everything NDAs. Now, if you have been on the interwebs, if you are on the TikTok or on the Instagram, you have seen all of those reels and videos about, especially the interview ones. I think I did one too, where people are like, I can't answer that question. I signed an NDA, right? I mean, there's so many different versions of that, right? And it is funny, it is cheeky and whatnot. So NDAs themselves have become such a hot topic this year, or within the last rolling 12, I just keep seeing things about NDAs. I'd never heard of them before, like in the social space, of course, at work, right? So NDAs, what the hell are they, Ashley? Well, let me ask you this, because I always like to know like where people's knowledge is. So Jamie, I'm going to ask you, like, what would you say is the difference between like an NDA, a non-compete, and a non-solicit? Like,
okay, so God, I hope I don't sound like a fucking idiot.
Well, you don't have an
non-disclosure
embarrassment
agreement is what an NDA stands for. Yeah. So a lot of times celebrities use them because they don't want to even know that you possibly had sex with them.
Okay.
I'm thinking of like Justin Bieber, like that one time that girl came out and said, I signed an NDA when I had a one-night stand with Justin Bieber.
At what point in the night?
Well, after, of course, when they're leaving.
Or maybe you start the night. I would start the night.
Yeah, well, I would think.
I would.
Yeah, because
you're
like
going out with me and you know how I am. Yeah, just
was
it
Drake that like takes phones up? I'm sorry, Drake, but I think like some of these like take phones up and stuff.
So that's a good. So you don't want info getting out.
Non-solicitation is not soliciting like other employers people. And and whatnot. And then what was the other one?
Non-compete.
Non-compete would be like working for a direct competitor.
And so I like to literally just ask, because I think it's important for people to understand also like what they're signing. Because I've seen in my career, especially as lawyer, Ash, some of these documents and the title of the document does not mesh with the contents of the document.
Really?
Totally. Like the title will be like confidentiality agreement. Like we want to keep it confidential. And then you read in paragraph like 13H is like, you also, will not work for a competitor for X period of time. And I'm like,
that's a different document.
Right. Because everybody doesn't read their documents or doesn't understand it. And so it's absolutely really important. And so those things, and especially globally, different things. In the U.S., it's gotten more attention because in the U.S., the Federal Trade Commission, which is a federal agency, had proposed a rule to ban non-competes across the U.S. Nothing has happened with it. April of this year is the first something might happen with it. It'll get litigated. My personal, non-advice opinion is I don't think that will happen. But different states have done those things, and that's more for non-competes. And so all of this, the NDA, the non-compete, non-solicitation, is all about protecting an organization's interests or its celebrities' interests, and to keep things under wraps. The problem I have, especially as I move from legal Ashley to HR Ashley, and you think about the workplace dynamics, people's ability to earn a living, is these organizations are saying, well, we're investing in our employees all of this information, and so they can't go out and share it with somebody else. And from the non-compete, why that's been under attack is because really a lot of these organizations we've talked about, the problem is they're not actually investing in employees. They're just trying to prevent you from working elsewhere and make it harder for you to leave. And so you have places like California where non-competes have been banned for years, and non-solicits. And there's two types of non-solicits. Actually, it's important for people to know what these things mean.
What the difference is.
So there's like non-solicit can mean like customers. Like I might be able to work for a sales organization if I don't have a non-compete or my non-compete's expired, but I can't go and like call on those customers. Or I can't tell Jamie, hey, here's all the information. You go call on it and we'll split the commission. Like you generally can't do that. And that's a non-solicitation of customers or a non-solicitation of employees. You can't bring people. And it's kind of a sliding scale. And I won't get into that here. But like California has basically had it where all they've had for employers is non-disclosure agreements for years. There's not a non-compete. There's really not non-solicits generally. And what that means is that employers, you have to compete to make sure that you're providing that work environment that's compensating people, providing them that opportunity. And I think in a fairness workplace, especially in the US where there's not guarantees of severance generally, with minimal exceptions, like to have that, it creates more of an even playing field. And so we'll talk more about the confidentiality stuff, but from that non-compete, non-solicit aspect, companies will say we have to have this. But a lot of these companies that are super competitive haven't had these type of things. But right now, that's been a very hot topic because of the impacts on people's working lives.
They're like, okay, are you going to drink this Kool-Aid and sign this non-compete?
Right, or not. You're either with us or against us here.
Yeah.
Now, do you see that non-solicits and non-competes are prevalent? Because I don't really see that, even supporting C-suite and whatnot. I mean, it's something maybe for like engineering, or it's something for sales or BD or business development. Or, you know what I mean? It seems like more niche. That's how I see it. But I don't know if it just depends on your organization, or does it depend on your industry, or...
I think it depends on organization. I do think from roles, like sales roles tend to have it more. And it's in that non-solicitation in particular. And some of that is like, okay, fair enough, because at least you can have more of that conversation of like, if you have a sales employee and you've actually done all of this training and these things, then can they leave and tomorrow go for a competitor? You can have the conversation about like what's fair and what's not. And I can see a little bit more both sides of that. So sales, you do sit to see it. Engineering, to your point, research and development. But what you will see sometimes is organizations that have them for a ton of people. And you will see, so a non-compete in the US generally, and it's really state by state where they're allowed, is you have to be reasonable. And what that, it can be like from a time, geography, and role. And so like, I can't say like, you can go and work for a direct competitor generally. Like if you were a salesperson, like a company shouldn't stop you from going and becoming a janitor, and going and being part of that janitorial staff. Like there's no colorable argument unless you want to like have, information that you pass on, but then that's covered by an NDA. But you tend to see it sometimes for organizations that will just require it as a matter of course. And in that circumstance, it tends to be a red flag for me, because those organizations that provide them blindly also seemingly aren't the ones that are providing that tailored experience for the employees and making it. But you see so much misinformation on these things on social media, and like, people will come and ask me for individual advice. Again, like the last thing anybody should be doing is going to someone on TikTok to ask for individual advice.
Please stop doing that.
I can't. I think you can, and we get it a lot.
I get it a lot too, and I run fucking meme pages, y'all.
But you can't, and I get it. And again, meet people where they are. I get it. People want help, and they see you as someone. They're not realizing how many messages you're getting that are, and I can't, pages of, this. What would you do next? Well, I'm not. I can't do that for a variety of reasons. Yeah. Well, it's helpful. I can say like my bar license prohibits me from doing that.
I can't say
to blame. It's always helpful.
My pocketbook prohibits me. You had to set up time for coaching.
But the thing that people have to be careful of, like I see it all the time, is people will say, I'm being asked to sign this NDA or this non-compete, this NDA. Well, just sign it. It's not enforceable. Well, the hard thing that's important for employers to know is whether it's enforceable or not is decided often by a judge or arbitrator, and it costs a shitload of money to get there. And so what you don't want to do is not understand something that you're signing or something you're not and your family's not personally comfortable with, and want to bet at all that it's not going to be enforceable when they come after you, because a lot of companies are pretty aggressive about trying to enforce their non-competes, and it's a very unpleasant experience. And it's one of the very few areas that like litigation happens really quickly. Like you're in front of a judge. Yeah. Like if you watch like a legal show on TV, they're like, oh my God, this lawsuit was filed and we have a trial tomorrow. And like, well, that doesn't happen. You file a lawsuit and you're in trial like 2 decades from now. But in a non-compete, it's actually different. And often you can like get in front of it. Like I've been part of this, and you're in front of a judge, and there's testimony, and there's all emails are coming in and everything. But it's just important because there's a lot of misinformation. And so to find those resources, and I get it, it can be expensive to hire a lawyer and you may have to pay an hourly fee, but it's an area to make sure but also for companies to like think about the fairness. But I think the NDA, like more common, I think, is the NDA, that confidentiality agreement. Do you all tend to see those like across organizations?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the main one.
Yeah, NDAs. And then like conflict of interest.
Yeah.
at least I've found it more in the healthcare industry is, many of these are nurses or our doctors or some like our pharmacists. They usually have more than one job, and it might be PRN, which is per diem. So they're picking up one shift or something a weekend at a hospital or another facility. But a lot of the times it's not a non-compete because that's a needed profession, right? We're going to let you go work at the hospital down the street for, once or twice a month. So, but it's just being aware of that and having that conflict of interest and you stating I work at, X hospital, PRN or what have you. Well, so that's what I see a lot.
I think the burning question here that everyone wants to know is, per all of those TikToks and Instagram reels, if someone is in an interview and they are being asked a question by the company, hey, tell me about your last job, can they say, oh, sorry, I can't talk about it, I signed an NDA?
I mean, it's like you're going to have lawyer hat, Ashley, that says, yes, that's exactly what they should say because that's what. But the funny thing is, the funny thing is if you read these, and again, like go and look at your confidentiality agreements if you need a good night's sleep or whatnot. Right. But if you read them, a lot of times these agreements will say things like there'll be a line that says you are not to discuss the existence of this agreement.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of like Dave Ramsey has.
Well, you're the subject matter expert on that.
I am.
But if I'm interviewing, or you're interviewing me, and you say, "Ask this," and I can't talk about it, and I can't tell you, you I want to go back to not junior associate Ashley because I couldn't pipe up for anything. You just have to kind of fall in line. But you talk about some of this language and that a lot of employment lawyers you take for granted or HR or anybody. But you read it and you're like, well, how the fuck does that play out? Like you're asking me something I'm not supposed to talk about. I mean, it's fun when you think about people's resumes. The vast majority of information on someone's resume, well, not maybe vast majority, but a lot is covered by confidentiality, but also,
I know.
But the flip side to that is when you're interviewing candidates, you want to know quantifiably the data. Mm-hmm. And people often want to hire from competitors because you want that skill set. And so it's do as I say, not as I do. And so there has to be I do think there's trade secret laws that can already protect this depending on where you are. But a confidentiality agreement, in my opinion, generally covers most of what an organization or workplace is really interested in keeping, of not saying okay, I can go to a competitor and this and completely destroy something that a lot of people's livelihoods have gone towards building. Mm-hmm. So I can understand that. But I understand that a lot more than non-compete or non-solicit. But Leigh, okay, how would you answer that?
So then you would have to say, oh, I can't answer that, but I can't tell you why I can't answer that.
And then that's weird, right? That's people like that. Like how, if you're the interviewer, are you like...
Yeah, and it's like, well, if I do answer it, are you going to go back to my previous employer and be like, so-and-so, they told me about what they did for work.
And then they have your resume, and then of course there's so much on your resume already. To your point,
then they're going to reach out to your prior job and be like, "Tell me that." Well, that's which is another question. But it's how you talk about these expectations, obligations you put on your employees, and think about how you would address those for candidates that are coming into your organization. And now what you're seeing is a lot of organizations will have an NDA at the start of employment, or when you get a promotion, you might have a non-compete. There's all of those things. But also with a separation agreement. And what organizations will say is if we're separating, we're buying either certainty of not having a litigation, or sometimes, buying silence, more in that celebrity realm of I'm paying you in exchange for silence.
That's how I see it used.
But the laws are, you're really seeing these change and these carve outs. And so employment lawyers really have a cottage industry in this, because you'll see in California, you have to include this language that, carves out these types of claims. And so in a number of states, more progressive, like California, New York, and the US, and I actually don't know how this is globally, so I'd be curious, but you can't have at times a confidentiality agreement for certain claims, like sexual harassment following Me Too. This silver lining to a gray cloud of some of the shit that happens is there's legislation about it. And so some of this now, you can't keep quiet on some of these claims. And organizations like, well, I'm going to pay money if this person can speak fully about it. Well, prevent it from happening in the first place, or address it if, in the God forbid, something happens terribly at work. And so you're seeing a lot of this, that the sole purpose that a lot of organizations use them for, that they can't anymore. But people often aren't aware of their rights.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
classic tale? All right. So I think that that's all we have from a hot topic perspective. Again, I realize we have a hard stop. Everyone's got places to be and things to do. So let's move into some questions and comments. Any questions or comments?
Oh, just to kind of go about the NDA or the non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement, sign the fucking thing. That is all.
What do you mean? Are you seeing people? Are you going against my thing to read what people understand? Or are you seeing people not sign them?
Please read it. Please read it.
She doesn't read job descriptions, but she signs any legal document.
That's a fact. No. Please read it. Obviously, don't be a dumbass, but read it, but sign it. Like, don't be a hard ass. Like, I cannot tell you, at my last job, we sent NDAs to candidates after they got through to the final interview, and how many people wanted to, we would like to adjust this. And I want to, my lawyer looked at this. I'm like, it is the most basic NDA you could possibly, this is just for your freaking interview. Sign it or no.
Wait, hold on. I'm going I'm going to have my comment. Why would you send a candidate an NDA about an interview? Like, to tell them because this is one of my things I don't care for.
I've gotten NDAs for interviews.
Which I know, and I know those exist, and I've had the request put on me to do this. But the reason I know organizations, twofold. One is sometimes organizations will say, well, we're going to talk about confidential information in that interview, and we want to protect it. Okay, I can get that. The flip side is we don't want people to know that this position is open because there's somebody enrolled and they're going to get fired once you get hired. I don't like that. Is that why?
No. So to not give too much information away.
Okay.
Because she signed an NDA.
I signed an NDA.
You're not supposed to say that.
Essentially, our business model was unlike anything else. And so, because it was a startup, we protected it because this was a different way. And I'm not even going to say it's in healthcare, but I'm not even going to say what the sector of healthcare was because it was also specialized. So when people got to that level and they really got to understand more about what we do, who we are, who we're taking care of, that is why, because it was a brand new business model and a completely new way of not only taking care of patients, but also billing, which is a key part of why we had candidates sign NDAs.
I can hear you're passionate about this billing, which is great.
Well,
but I
because
think
it has to do with CMS.
I don't know. It sounds like someone's been drinking the Kool-aid.
You've been, but I think, like, because my other counterpoint, I often tell with organizations, they'll say we need an ironclad NDA. Well, the laws being what they are, like, you do the best. I hate the word ironclad from it because it just. But I say also an NDA. It's not a magic piece of paper. If you want to enforce it, you may have to go to court. And who are you going to be taking to go to court? Are you going to have a candidate that interviews or an employee and go to court? That doesn't tend to happen. And so it's more of the psychological, like, shh.
Exactly.
I would rather sign something that just says, please, shh, love CEO. And
I know.
Shushies.
XOXO.
Honestly. And so that's how I always say to people, like, what are you going to fucking sue somebody? Like, okay, they'll pay. I'll go back to being a lawyer if that's what we're doing. Actually, I won't. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my god.
Okay, so Ashley.
Well, that's it. I'll take that as my comment. I won't. I've said enough. I've said enough today.
You are the expert, ma'am.
So for the organizations that you do not have NDAs at, I guess that's how you would say that. What is the weirdest gift that you've ever received from a coworker? A bit of a curveball there. Have you ever received just something really weird or out of left field from a coworker?
I have actually.
Have you?
It was when I worked in hospitality. It was a frilly pink apron. They handmade it.
That's so nice.
That is nice.
It actually really, when I learned out, first of all, it was just on my desk. It wasn't wrapped. I had no idea who gave it to me. One of the sweet housekeeping ladies, she was thanking me for helping her with her paycheck. And she made me, it was literally, it was a cute little, like, it was only this big. So
you
it was
thought it was a sex thing.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
I walked in my
that.
office and it was like a frilly pink lace apron.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, but she made it. And it honestly, it made me cry when she came and told
That's
me.
so kind.
But walking in on that, being like, who the fuck is
the apron, the lacy apron?
I was like, I'm HR. This is not okay.
Yeah,
Investigation
I took it as
time.
something risque.
Yeah, but no, it wasn't.
I gave a gift once when it was Boss's Day, which is a fucked up holiday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about this. And our office manager, I was general counsel and head of HR, our office manager, blah, 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 Boss's Day. This is what I gave to our CEO. Well, fuck, I didn't know we were doing this. Okay. Well, then I'm like, what can I buy online? And so I bought then I was stressed about the amount. Like I bought like a $25, maybe $50, probably $50 Starbucks card, gift card, and thanks boss, whatever card, and gave it. And then a few weeks later, I was like, oh, I never heard about that. And then I said something to the office manager. I was like, it's so weird. I'm like, I don't even have to use it. And she's like, oh, he probably didn't even use it. He doesn't like Starbucks. He drinks Dunkin'. And I was like, well, fuck that. So I figured out how I could send it back to myself. And so now this was years ago. I have on my phone, my Starbucks self card says, thanks, boss. And it is for myself. So I took it back. And so.
What if he regifted it?
Damn.
Well, then they'd be disappointed. And they'd be
shit on it.
Because you're like, that $50 is
maybe
in
to
my
the chairman, or.
Did you and do a Dunkin' then or no? You just said fuck it.
No.
See me, I would be like, well, here's your Dunkin' card. I heard you didn't like Starbucks.
I just took it back myself. That was a weird gift I received from myself.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
Oh my God. Well, I've received a few different things, some not all appropriate. And I've had a lot of employees receive inappropriate gifts from folks. Like, of course, I've had, the intern receive the sex toy dildo from the manager and things like that.
God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. But I think one of the weirdest things that I've received, it's just the one that just came top of mind, was a whip can.
Huh?
Like a can of whip ass?
No, not a whoop ass can. Not a
whip it. Like whip it?
Whip it. So the one with
Whip
the CO2 or whatever, the nitro chargers or whatever.
People use it. I think people huff on those, right?
Yeah, to get high.
Is that what I was supposed to do with them?
What did you do? Did you clean your keyboard?
Cream, right?
No, so like literally the industrial, like the shits at Starbucks. The shits from Starbucks.
I know
God,
what you're talking about. Yeah.
So street.
Okay.
But yeah, the whip cans, whipped cream cans.
Yeah, okay.
I had somebody, I guess I won't name their title, but a person in the organization buy me a whip can and with the cartridges and whatnot. And because they said they noticed that I liked whipped cream. And then I connected the dots because I was kind of in a Frappuccino phase. And I would just go to Starbucks and just get, no shit, this is kind of gross, I guess, now that I think about this. But I would just get a venti whip. And I would just eat
they call that a puppuccino because that's what you can get for your dog.
But a puppuccino is just the little cup, a mini cup. You have to request a tall.
You got the Great Dane Chino.
I get the horse side, the industrial size
horse puppuccino.
That kind of sounds good. I'm not going to judge.
It's fucking delicious.
My God.
But
have you tried Cardi B's new her vodka whipped cream?
No, but I've had vodka whipped cream flavored vodka.
Oh, yeah,
I've done all the vodkas.
She has Cardi B.
I love vodka. You're welcome
shout
to
out
promote
Cardi
me,
B.
vodka
Love you.
company.
Can you please put out another album? Fuck. Anyway, she has a actual whipped cream that is vodka infused. I believe it's vodka.
Yeah, sounds kind of. Can we go out and get
yes,
that?
Please.
Get some of that later.
Body shots.
I'm gonna get a Leachino. That's what I'm gonna call it. Starbucks.
Leachino. Oh yeah, I do need my own drink, don't I? My God. Well, basically, it's just a thing of whip.
Give him kudos though for noticing something.
Don't give that creeper kudos because what I realized was I was sucking the fuck out of that straw in the office.
And he was noticing.
He was noticing it.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just in my 20s, cute as hell. Okay, let's be honest.
I noticed you like whipped cream.
I noticed you like whipped cream. So shake it and whip this, basically. You know what I mean? And so, but I love that. I still have it because I love whipped cream.
I was going to say, do you make it?
I still do. No, it's been a while because I ran out of them cartridges I was supposed to huff. I didn't realize that. So I've just been moving with it for 12 years or whatever,
She genuinely made whipped cream.
Yeah, but I did. I used to literally make genuine restaurant whip. I thought that was so cool, Cool. So once I got over that and stopped that habit in the office, I was doing it in my car, eating my whipped cream in the car, all quick with because apparently I was really going at it on that straw. I mean, like TMI, I didn't mean to go there, but something was happening. But I was just lost in the whipped cream because, boy, do I love whipped cream. I just do, and I don't use it like that, like y'all are thinking. I just like to eat it. I just love heavy whipping cream. It's so good, I put that in my coffee. Anyway, all right. Well, that is all that we have today. That is quite a full staff meeting there. We got a lot accomplished, I feel like. But whip it good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.